A romance comedy, a story that tries to make you laugh and yearn for love, which is actually really easy to do. You just need a slightly feminine face, a bit of blush, and voila. Now, making someone laugh is even easier. Take that same doodle and just have it give you unconditional love and genuine support. But intuitive, that's not, yes it is. So, like I said, not a hard task. And yet, for the past 7 years, one franchise cemented itself at the top of the romance category not once, not twice, but 3 times. Kaguya-sama, Love is War, written by Akasaka, does something right that no other show has been able to replicate. And today, I'll talk about exactly what it is. Here's a question. Between these two, which scene is more pleasing? Unless you have a kink, you'll likely pick the one on the right. Am I just cherry picking clips? No. In the entire first season, Asanagi will not look any worse than this, and it's all by design. I made friends with the second prettiest girl in my class, I'm getting married to a girl I hate in my class, there's no way a side character like me could be popular. You can see the pattern. These are commonly dubbed as wish fulfillment stories. They lure you in with a premise that's too good to be true, inside the most aggressively average MC you can imagine, and the most impossibly perfect love interest that has no business hanging out with the protagonist, and yet, she does. But nobody questions why she does. Because for the target audience, that nerdy loser hits a bit too close to home. And so as long as the fantasy exists, who even cares about plot holes? Remember what I said earlier? This is the formula. Kaguya-sama doesn't give a shit. In an interview, when Akasaka was asked about his target audience, he responded with a clear no for otakus. Instead, his ideal reader is an office lady relaxing at work, and knowing that, things begin to make more sense. Kaguya Shinomiya is the oldest daughter of a top 4 Japan conglomerate with 200 trillion yen in assets. She's also extremely talented in any subject she touches, and with her seemingly indifferent and cold personality, she's rightfully feared as much as admired. In this scene, when Kaguya says, "Kawaii koto," the word cute is used how one would describe an insect before smashing it into nothing, purely condescending. Naturally, no otaku is interested in getting shamed, and yet somehow the show boasts both a large female and male fanbase. How? Because unlike a wish fulfillment story, Kaguya-sama will never deliberately confuse the protagonist and the viewer. The person Shinomiya insulted is her rival, Miyuki Shirogane. He's wise and intelligent, calm and confident. He always ranks first on exams, and his devotion to studies has earned him the most respected position of president of a school student council. The council room is also where most of the story takes place. When he was coming up with the premise, Akasaka was initially inspired by Death Note. This much is obvious without saying. The blue and red contrast, a rivalry between two geniuses, all that's left is the battle. And since Kaguya-sama is not a psychological thriller, but a romance comedy, the stakes can't be life or death, but instead something really fucking goofy. These two are in love. The most sincere and clumsy kind of love you would only remember from high school days. Unfortunately, both are too prideful to admit it, and so ironically, both want the other person to confess first. And what do you get when you put two super smart, yet really prideful teenagers against each other? The most elaborate misunderstanding in anime history. See, in a rom-com, the will they, won't they bullshit is kind of a given. The anxious looks and nervous laughs are all essential to that awkward early teen romance phase. But it's still really corny, okay? Like, you can't tell me you're so flustered about a guy staring at you, but at the same time you just admit to it out loud in front of him? Because now I am sitting there embarrassed, with my face buried in my hands and begging for the scene to end. Akasaka heard my prayers. Knowing full well how tired people were of the same cringy tropes, he decided to turn that cringe all the way up? All of us know this unspoken rule in comedy. For an edgy joke to be acceptable, it has to be more funny than edgy. And I think what Kaguya-sama showed me was that for a corny trope to not be cringe, it has to be more funny than corny. And since it gets really embarrassing, the author needed to get creative. But not just for the reasons I mentioned. Mind games get stale fast. After all, you can only listen to inner monologues for so long before it gets boring. You need to switch up the setting. And so, when Akasaka was coming up with a plot, he decided to center each chapter around a specific negative emotion. And since there are so many of them, the story never feels repetitive. Sometimes it would be a single emotion like jealousy over love confessions from other people, but jealousy or pride are experienced differently depending on the person. and so very often Akasaka will write the exact scenario to show that. Like in Season 1, Episode 2, the council discusses where to go for summer vacation. Super generic topic, usually. Just not for these two. Miyuki knows astronomy, so a chance to stargaze under an open sky view at the mountains gives him that home field advantage. On the other hand, Kaguya knows the male gaze, so getting to show off her swimsuit at the beach might just corner the president. Of course, both came prepared to fight with everything they've got. Crowds, private beach, sunburn, sunscreen, sharks, shark hunter. Damn, she's rich. Bugs. Ooh, Miyuki is terrified of bugs, but he also can't swim. The argument is reaching its climax, and we need just one more element to resolve it. That's right! The narrator in Kaguya-sama is unlike anything in the entire medium. He's loud, he's hype, and considering he only gets cast in supporting roles, he clearly needed to pay his bills. Unlike the main duo, Yutaka Aoyama doesn't hold back any of his feelings. Even when he states what seems like pure facts, the narrator can't hide their obvious bias. The bias being that whatever over-the-top dumb activities Miyuki and Kaguya are up to is actually the greatest thing in existence. This energy is so contagious, you can't help but feel the stakes exactly how the narrator does. It's one of the few clear advantages the anime has over the manga. Since we read what characters say in our own voice, they all tend to sound the same. But how fun would it be to have a middle-aged man narrate a few panels? Final exams are coming soon. Have you all been studying? There's no need to study for exams. Ishigami, maybe you should push yourself a little. I'll be fine. I'm gonna study more at home. My perfect impressions aside, you can feel how the narrator dictates the emotion. But I think we're still missing something crucial. At the very beginning, Akasaka wrote the main leads almost like twins. They basically share the same personality, the same thought process, and if the saying opposites attract holds true, then these two would always repel each other. So to break the deadlock, Akasaka wrote Yu Ishigami. Yeah, this creature right here only exists for one reason, to stir shit up. Chika Fujiwara is a chaos agent. Because she's completely oblivious to the mind games, she acts as the ultimate foil. She's the only reason the relationship moves at all, but at the same time, the greatest threat to their genius plans. But Fujiwara's role isn't simply comedic relief. Chika rarely has any inner monologues. This was a conscious decision by the author. As Akasaka said, Fujiwara doesn't harbor any darkness. She's exactly who she is. That sincerity and simple-mindedness, I've talked about this archetype in one of my earlier videos. Characters like these act as a mirror. If Kaguya resents her, it's just a reflection of her own dark thoughts. But if Shirogane breaks his face trying to learn how to play volleyball, Fujiwara is right there taking the bruises with him. Because although she might be an idiot, she's far from dumb. She's the daughter of a diplomat, knows 5 languages and is a skilled pianist, but most of all, with each interaction, you begin to realize that she ironically has the most common sense. Somehow, the most book-smart geniuses are the most clueless. Akasaka explains why he wrote them this way. The joy of comedy lies in the gap between expectations and reality. The larger the gap, the funnier something is. This is Kaguya-sama's trademark. The lazy genius, the brave coward, in Kaguya-sama, the incompetent perfectionist. In the early 2010s, the term Gap Mo was coined by anime fans for the specific type of character. Its earliest manifestation, the tsundere, has grown far into the mainstream even outside anime discourse. The tsundere is simple. They hate you, but really actually like you. But not really. Our main characters start out the same way. Intentionally, Akasaka wrote them as blank slates. But with each game or failed plan, they become filled with more and more emotions that are undeniably human. The clip I showed you at the very beginning of Kaguya mocking Shirogane was completely made up in his own head. Miyuki was born into poverty, so in his eyes, the grades is all he has going for himself. So he desperately clings to it, ready to sacrifice anything just to be on equal ground. Kaguya was born wealthy, but completely sheltered from the outside world, and most importantly, from any kind of affection. So she desperately hides, reluctant to seek out any connection out of fear that she'll be denied it. And yet they still try. Because that's what love is. It's a constant effort to understand the other person, to know what they like and what they don't like. It's a decision to support them at their lowest and to stand beside them at their highest. Only after finding out their true weakness does one have the highest chance of success. But even that's not enough. The chance of failure is low, but not 0%. And so you have to make them confess first, no matter what. Do you get it? Love is war.